Hello, patrons. How
Hey.
are you all doing? Thank you so much for your support. We very much love you and appreciate everything you do for us.
Yep.
A couple of things here on the docket before we get to the retrospective. But
Mm-hmm.
first, I've wanted to do this for a few weeks and I keep forgetting. But if you go to our store,
Yep.
InSessionFilm.com/store, or you can go to tpublic.com/stores/InSessionFilm. I got one of our new ones right here.
I was
Our
gonna
midnight
say,
special one.
JD, look at that butte right there.
It's
Just
good.
look at it. Stand up. Show
Yeah,
everything about it.
look at it's pretty great, right? I'm very happy with how
I'll
it turned out.
always worry about you too, JD. That's
Yeah,
the deal.
very happy with how that turned out.
Yeah.
There's of course a bunch of others out there, and we have a new one. We'll
Yeah.
talk about this on the episode.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the sayings that I have thrown out there forever is the best thing that ever happened to La La Land is that it lost Best Picture to Moonlight. We have that in a t-shirt now that you can go and check
I
out.
feel like if any of our shirts are gonna sell like gangbusters, it might be that one.
It might be that one.
Yeah.
I've yet to put it out on social media, mostly
Okay.
because of time, but we'll get to
Yeah.
that soon as well.
Sure.
But I wanted to let patrons know that if you go to TeePublic and you purchase anything, we do have a code for patrons. And that code is ISF20, and that'll get you 20% off.
Nice.
So it's ISF20, and you'll get 20% off, and that is just for the patrons. So I
Yep.
just wanted to throw that out there. Now, before we get to some film-related stuff, and I will apologize up front because I do know and understand not everyone will be interested in this. However, Brendan and I are big sports fans, and college football is in full swing. And I wanted to have a little fun talking about this before we get into some film because
Yeah.
there was a big game over the weekend, Notre Dame and Ohio State. Brendan, did you see this game?
I didn't see all of it. I was actually, to be honest, I was actually more invested in not just Penn State afterwards, but I was actually more invested in the Colorado-Oregon game of all things.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Especially after the history, or not even the history, but what happened last week between Colorado and Colorado State, and how devastating that was, and how frustrating that it was. I was trying to see what was going to happen to bleed into that game. So I was more, I guess, attentive towards that one. But yeah, I do recall and I hear about everything that happened regarding Notre Dame and Ohio State.
Well, it's understandable that you missed the Notre Dame game because it happened at the same time as Penn State.
Right.
Colorado and Oregon was like
I was earlier.
I called that from the beginning. They were going to get blown out. They just don't.
Especially
have
missing their star player because of an illegal hit last week. I mean that was absolutely unfortunate.
Even if Travis Hunter played, though, they would have gotten demolished. Colorado just doesn't have the horses yet. They're on their way. It won't be long before
they completely reshaped their whole lineup for that reason. So that
for sure,
that just goes to show they're going to have longevity, or at least they will find their footing, as you say, some years down the line.
For sure, they're on their way. They'll be there soon, and they've surprised a little bit here early on, but they just don't have the talent to compete with Oregon, Washington, and USC. Not yet, but they're on their way. They'll probably get manhandled again against USC.
Yeah.
However, I wanted to bring up Notre Dame, Ohio State, because as a Michigan fan, this is one of those games where you're glued to the screen and you want both teams to die.
I know, right?
Like you just want both of them to lose. And,
what do you do in a lose-lose situation like that?
Well, it's
how does it benefit? How does it benefit your conference? Is basically how you have to root for them.
Well, the reason how I looked at this game in a vacuum is that we don't play Notre Dame this year, so I wanted to see how Ohio State looked against a pretty good opponent.
Right.
And fair credit, they did come out and win.
Yeah.
However, it was less Ohio State winning and more so Notre Dame just completely giving that game away.
Oh, yeah.
They, left some points up on the board early on in the first quarter. Ohio State gets really lucky in that there was a fourth down play where the quarterback keeps a run and he's out of bounds And it's one of those where it's close as far as where he gets the first down. It just depends on where they spot the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And they give him a first down. And almost like 99 times out of 100, in fact, the odds might even be lower than that.
Yeah.
That call is never getting overturned.
No.
Never. It's too hard. It's inconclusive.
Mm-hmm.
That ball or that spot is going to stay the same.
Yeah.
Almost every time. In fact, earlier in the day, Michigan had a similar situation where the tight end caught the ball, and as he was going out of bounds, he stretched out forward with the ball, and it looks like he got the first down. In fact, I would say that one was more objectively closer to first down than the Notre Dame one, but they called it back. And so Michigan had to convert a 4th and 1 instead of it being a first down. That to me was a little bit more obvious, but still, it was the same thing. You can't overturn it. It's just too inconclusive. So the fact that they overturned it, and then because it was a 4th down play, Ohio State got the ball, and Notre Dame was on the verge of scoring. So immediately, there's at least 10 points off the board that Notre Dame should have had in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to the end of the game. They get a huge stop on 4th down. I don't know why Ohio State's running a jet sweep on 4th and 1, but they do. They get stopped. And here's the thing. Notre Dame had been physically mauling Ohio State throughout a lot of the second half.
Right.
A lot of the game, but especially the second half. Run the ball.
Yeah.
All you have to do is run. They were not stopping you on the ground, but that's not what they do. Notre Dame galaxy brains this, and they throw the ball on first down, or they try to.
Yeah.
And he gets sacked. And so then they try to throw it on 2nd down. Horrible idea. And so now they just have to run the ball on 3rd down and try to run out as much clock as they can.
Yeah.
But it's not enough. It gives Ohio State a minute and a half to go. That is a huge mistake, because if they just ran the ball, the game's over. That last drive never even happens.
Exactly. They're able to run the clock by doing that.
They can just run the clock out. But instead, they give Ohio State, a minute and a half, which is plenty of time.
And for a team like Ohio State, that is more than enough time to do some damage.
More than enough time. And then so that's mistake number 1. That to me is the biggest mistake as far as the end of the game stuff goes.
Yeah.
But then it gets worse, because there comes a play where Notre Dame, one of the safeties had a clear interception. Catch the ball. Catch the ball, game over, but instead it goes right through his hands. It was thrown right to him.
Yeah.
And he lets it go through his hands. I'm sure this week that guy is having nightmares.
Oh.
And then there's the whole 4th or the goal line debacle. Oh, actually, let me backtrack, because the reason Ohio State got to it was like 3rd and 19, Brendan. It was 3rd and 19.
Yeah.
And they convert to the 1 yard line. What are you doing? How does that happen?
I don't know.
There's no way, especially in a prevent defense. They rushed 3 guys. They had everyone back, and somehow he gets wide open in space. Horrible defending. And then you get to the debacle of the goal line situation, where on the first play they get a little lucky because they only have 10 defenders, but because Notre Dame, Ohio State was throwing the ball, you had enough defenders to defend the pass there. And then, of course, they go to run the ball on the next play, and instead of taking a timeout, which Notre Dame had, or even risking the penalty. Who cares if you get a penalty? It moves half an inch. They're on the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
You need to have all your players in there to defend the ball. Instead, there's only 10 guys, and they run it right where there's not a guy.
Yeah.
It is. And then the galaxy brain. In fact, my head's going to explode here on Patreon thinking about this.
Rest in peace, JD.
Marcus Freeman says the reason he didn't call timeout or send someone in is because he didn't want to risk the penalty. What are you talking about?
This late in the game, too?
It's the game. Everything is on the line. What are you talking about? I don't
that's a safety excuse right there.
it's things like that, Brendan, where I'm like, you know what? Please put me, like, I will gladly take millions of dollars from a university to make stupid bonehead decisions. I will happily
That could
do
be your
that.
position.
I could do that.
Your official title could be stupid bonehead decision making.
Like,
Just
it
collect a
is
small
so
residual from what
dumb.
they do. Like, just like, I don't know, for every play call that you make, and if it works, you get, I don't know, $5,000 or something.
It
like
just is. Yeah, exactly. Like it is absolutely
You could work on freelance.
astronomically dumb. Yeah, I mean, I just do not understand. So like Notre Dame in every way, from the personnel to the coaching staff, absolutely choked and blew it. I mean, credit to Ohio State for making that run,
Yeah,
for sure. They showed grit and moxie and all that sort of stuff.
for sure.
Despite the coaches, the Ohio State coaching staff, Ryan Day, almost choking that away himself.
Mm-hmm.
But the players on the field did a great job of persevering and making it work.
Yeah.
But Notre Dame did everything in their power
To
to
lose
give
that
that
game.
to just give it away. Here,
So-
you take it.
Yeah. So what do you think that means for Michigan when they play Ohio State?
Well, so and here's the thing, and maybe I'll get a little nerdy with this. 'Cause I
Okay,
love
please do.
getting nerdy.
Please do.
But,
That's what I'm asking for.
So, first of all, let me address Ryan Day's comments at the end of the game. Did you see the video?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, it's really bad.
It's not good.
Because here's the thing, the irony of it, and I understand he's passionate about his team and he's wanting to, be like, we're a tough team, we're a tough team. They were out physicaled the whole time. Like
Yeah.
they did not show toughness. Now I do think they showed perseverance. They showed moxie,
Yeah.
but toughness, they were out toughed
They
in
were.
that game.
Yeah.
And here's where I'll get nerdy. And I don't know Notre Dame enough to know if this is Marcus Freeman's style or if they saw Jim Harbaugh the last 2 years and were like, you know what? I think we have a blueprint here, fellas. Because I did pay attention to the running schemes that Notre Dame was running. And boy, oh boy, were they running power and duo just like Mr. Harbaugh. Oh my God. I saw these guards pulling.
Basically
and-
playing Ohio State's own pass game against them.
Yes, they were running Harbaugh schemes
Wow.
in the running game, and it was
That's an interesting
devouring that
observation.
defense.
Yeah, this is why I love Nerdy Sports JD. I really do. You're like a mathematician when it comes to this.
I loved it, man, because as much as I love a great quarterback pass or a wide receiver making a one-handed grab in the end zone, you know what really gets me going? What really riles me up is a right guard pulling on a power play and just obliterating a linebacker. I just love it. Or in Michigan's case, they have a fullback. Michigan, Jim Harbaugh thinks it's 1999, and we are bringing back the fullback.
It's all about creativity, man. That's why I think my favorite position on the field is a tight end, because they're always a secret weapon. Yeah,
Michigan uses the heck out of a good tight end. You get a good tight end pulling around and just making a great kick out block. Oh my God, I love it. At any rate, I saw these guards running power, or the line, like they were running power and duo quite often, as Michigan has done the last 2 years, and it was effective. It was eating up Ohio State's defense, just like the way Michigan's been able to do it.
Yeah.
So what that demonstrates to me is that Michigan should be able to run the ball on Ohio State like they've done. And
that's my prediction as well.
It'll come down to, can JJ make passes like he did last year? Can he take care of the ball like he's done the last 2 years, or like he did last year? And the defense making timely stops.
Yeah.
That'll be the other big thing. So I think Michigan's got a great chance based off of what I saw out of there. Now, a lot of it will also depend on injuries throughout the year. It'll depend on development. Ohio State is getting better from week to week. They do look like a different team from that first game against Indiana.
Yeah, there's definitely progress for sure.
For sure.
But given what they've represented thus far, and I'm looking at, from my standpoint, my Penn State Nittany Lions, from that perspective, we do play Ohio State and Michigan on our
That'll be a
schedule.
key. See, now that'll be a huge test,
Yeah,
for both
but
teams, really.
What I was going to say, we play Ohio State first. We play
Yes.
them in October, and then we play you early November, or mid-November, I think it is, actually. I think it's November 11th.
Yeah, I'd have to look.
Actually, yeah, let's talk. It's November 11th. I'm almost positive.
Okay.
At least at this point now, if there isn't any more noticeable progress from Ohio State's end, I am way more worried about playing you guys than I am Ohio State at this point. I absolutely am. I think I'm really happy with what Penn State's doing this year. I mean, we destroyed Iowa. We destroyed them.
It wasn't close.
Now, at the same time, it made me wonder if we made Iowa look bad, or if Iowa is just bad this year, because
it's a little bit of both, really.
It is, and I think there were some other factors like the weather in State College at Beaver Stadium at the time too. I think certainly played a hand in that, but it was to the point that Penn State almost broke a record during that game. I think the record was the number of offensive plays that are made during a single game. I think it was 99 is the record they had to beat, and they ended up at like 92 or something like that by the clock end of that game.
Yeah.
And I just think it's funny that despite how that game turned out, Iowa is still probably going to win the Big Ten West because, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't even play Michigan or Ohio State in their roster or in their schedule. I don't even think they do. So
I don't think so. No,
they're probably going to win the Big Ten West after all of that.
Well, Wisconsin is going to win the Big Ten West. I don't see them losing a game in the Iowa is just not very good.
And it's funny to say that because Iowa is always that one team that usually upsets a major Big Ten opponent every year.
That is, they historically, yes.
Yeah.
Right now, they just do not have the offense.
That's
Their
true.
offense is.
It doesn't exist. You're right.
It doesn't exist.
If anything held that game for at least the first half, it was their special teams.
Their special teams is always great. And they always have a solid defense. That's how they got to the Big Ten championship game 2 years ago in 2021 when Michigan played them in the Big Ten championship.
Right.
But they just don't, their offense is non-existent. It is really, really bad. And it'll be enough to beat the Illinois of the world. I just don't see it beating a Wisconsin. I'd be shocked. It'd be a huge upset. You never know. But Iowa, I don't think, is very good. Penn State, though, has looked great all year. I am curious about Drew Aller and his progression.
Same.
I know we struggled a little bit at times in the Illinois game, I think, early on.
Yeah. But bright side, and I always like to look at it from a longevity standpoint, he's going to be around. He's only a sophomore.
He's only a sophomore. Absolutely. There's plenty of growth to be had there and a ton of potential for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Love Penn State's defense. The Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan of it all is going to be really interesting.
This is why I cannot stand the whole Big Ten East-West thing, because it's always the Big Ten East that represents the top three teams in the Big Ten, right?
Yeah.
It always ends up being that.
Well, thankfully, that's going away after this year.
It is when they become, the Big 18?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. and Michigan, every time new teams enter the Big Ten, Michigan gets them. Yeah. And I would not be surprised at all if Michigan has a gauntlet next year where they not only have Sparty and Penn State and Ohio State, but they also get USC and one of Oregon and Washington. They're going to have a really hard road next year. We'll see. But yeah, that Penn State Ohio State game is looking more and more intriguing because
absolutely
both teams, as far as I'm concerned, are kind of on that same playing level.
And thankfully, that game, Penn State Ohio State, is the weekend after my wedding. Thank goodness.
Yeah. The only thing that makes me nervous for Penn State, and again, this is a slight thing, but it is in Columbus. And again, Drew Aller, his first year as a starter, as a sophomore, how does he handle that environment? We'll see.
Yeah, that's going to be
he may ace that test and come out
For sure.
glorious in the end. But it's unknown. There's just an uncertainty there.
He needs a certain type of pressure that makes him play well. He needs like a Travis Kelce Swifty energy.
So he's got to figure out his Swift element.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
that's going to be a really fun game to watch, and it'll definitely, as a Michigan fan, it'll tell me a lot about both teams really. But I'm more curious. I feel like I know what Penn State is and what they'll be.
Yeah.
Ohio State, again, credit to going to Notre Dame and winning that, despite Notre Dame handing it to them, but they still took it. They could have took it and given it back, but they didn't do that. They almost did.
They almost
on
did.
a 4th and 1 jet sweep. I mean, what are you doing? I mean, they almost gave it back, but credit to them. That's still an impressive win nonetheless.
Right. Sure.
But the way they were out physicaled and out toughed, that, to me as a Michigan fan, that, all that does is reinforce that Michigan will have the edge in that regard. But by the time they get to Penn State, how will they have progressed?
Yeah.
Because even though that game is at home, I mean, if they end up losing that game, I wouldn't be surprised, especially if there's a regression.
That's even if they just maintain where they are right now. I think that's the outcome that would still most likely happen.
Yeah. And that game will be important because Michigan, they get a little screwed in the non-conference. They were supposed to play UCLA, and they pulled out. And so they had to instead put Bowling Green in there. So they end up playing nobody in the non-con. And because of how the Big Ten schedule worked out, which they don't have a hand in, it's just the cards they were dealt, they don't really play anyone of note until probably Penn State in November. So it doesn't get interesting for us until November 11th. So until then, they have to just not slip up.
Yeah.
And try not to have a trap game in there.
For sure.
But the Ohio State Penn State game will give us an idea of where those two stand, because Michigan does have some things to work on, especially defensively.
Yeah.
JJ's got a few things to clean up from the Bowling Green game. Donovan Edwards, one of our star running backs from last year, who ate up Ohio State in that fourth quarter last year, he struggled this year. So, they have some things to work out themselves. Michigan is far from being, a saint in all of this.
Right.
But knowing where Penn State and Ohio State are as of October 21st, that gives us 3 weeks to prepare for both of those teams.
Yeah. That's more than enough time for
Time.
Michigan. Oh, yeah.
So, at any rate, I had to get all that off my chest.
Sports are fun. InSession Sports. Welcome back, InSession Sports. It's been a while.
Absolutely. All right, before we get to the retrospective real fast, we'll bring this up on the main show as well.
Right.
But maybe we can go through it slightly a little bit more here. So the WGA has a new agreement.
Yep.
And
a tentative new agreement.
And all of this is kind of unfolding as we're recording this.
Yeah,
so
because apparently as we're recording this, the strikes end at 12:01 tonight.
Yes, which is just in a few hours as we are recording this. So by the time this gets to your ears, the strike will be up.
Yeah.
So under this new agreement, the studios will have to provide streaming data to the WGA. They must provide worldwide total numbers of hours streamed that the WGA is then allowed to share with its members in aggregated form. What else that we have? The writers agreed to terms for minimum staffing for TV rooms, and there's some details that are listed out in the agreement online. The contract. AI is another big part of this, right? Where
huge part.
AI cannot write or rewrite literary material, and AI-generated material will not be considered source material. A writer can choose to use AI, but the studio can't require the writer to use AI software.
Yeah.
Studios must disclose to writers if any materials given to them have been generated by AI or incorporate AI-generated material. And then I think the last big thing here is residuals.
Yes.
And there's a lot of numbers listed in the thing that they released online tonight as far as
Right.
how that will be structured and laid out. So
Right.
that's where we stand as of right now.
Yeah.
What do you think of all of that?
Well, it's certainly better than we were, 5 months ago? I
Yeah.
gasped when I found out that this was, 146 days
Yeah.
of active. I failed to realize how long that it was, and that's kind of part of the problem. It's unfortunate that it had to last that long, which is why this is a good thing. Now, maybe I'm a little bit ignorant to the term tentative agreement and what that actually means. So I hope that means that what we're relaying here, as far as the stipulations of this agreement, that these hold true for as long as possible, because these are things that we don't want to see overtake the role of the writer, right? Especially
Yeah.
with regard to AI. Like, there's always going to be a place for that, but it needs to be used smartly and not to let content itself overtake the artistry of it, which is what they were fighting for. So I get that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great to see that there has been an acknowledgement of compromise. Shouldn't have taken this long,
Nope.
but I'm glad that it's there. Now the next step is, now we got to worry about SAG, because because with the WGA making their striking end here, that doesn't solve everything regarding SAG. So as far as I understand it, that means anything that had like a joint, I guess, union relationship on certain projects, those still need to be on hold, if I'm not mistaken. So I think we'll see a lot more television content, like late night talk show hosts and talk show programs will make the resurgence now. Things like that, which is, it's a great start. It really is.
It is.
Just should not have taken this long.
Should not have taken this long. And we know this comes down to mustache twirling, cartoonish greed. Like, that's all this comes down to. And
I'm gonna grow a mustache like that for Halloween and just say I'm a studio executive.
Yeah, I know. It's really funny because and you and I have not gotten a chance to review this film yet. Have you seen the film Dumb Money yet?
Not yet. No.
Not yet. I'm not sure how far or how wide that film is circulated yet. Is that going wide this weekend?
I think it is. Even if it isn't, I'm sure there's going to be a theater near Philadelphia that gets it.
Absolutely. It's a film that we'll get to eventually on the podcast. I do have a video review up on YouTube, and it was interesting because I was talking about the antagonist of that film, right? Like, it shows us the other side of the coin, so to speak, with Wall Street and some of the greed. And look, as characters, they're very bland. They offer nothing to the movie. Dramatically speaking, it's very flat.
Of course.
And really, that's my problem with it. Like, I would just remove them and emphasize more of the underdog element, because I think that is a little messy in the movie.
Sure.
But the funny thing is, like, as far as them being one-note villains, I was like, I'm kind of okay with that. Like, I'm okay. Like, look,
we've experienced it in real life to know that maybe it's not a criticism anymore.
To me, it's just not like, these guys are one-note villains in real life. That's what they are. And I have no problem with movies depicting them that way. It's more of a utilization thing.
Sure.
Like using them for drama or moving the plot or providing something.
When it's manufactured in a certain way. Because we've seen movies that the villain themselves could be written in a very superficial way, right? And that could be a benefit to that specific movie, depending on what it's telling and how it's utilizing him or her.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, a great use of that same mantra is Glenn Howerton in Blackberry. That's a film that I really like. And that's a performance and a character that I don't know. Like, we don't get to know him in any sort of deep and meaningful way, but they really utilize, like, the performance and the vigor of it in a way that's fun and inviting for that movie and what it's trying to accomplish. Again, as one note as it really is, that to me is an effective way of using a character like that. Whereas
Yeah,
I
I
just don't
guess.
think Dumb Money does that. Anyway, I'm getting way down a rabbit hole I didn't really mean to. I just wanted to bring that up to say, like,
Yeah, I get you.
like these figures are like these are one note villains in real life. That's what they are, and like that's a criticism in film that I just can't.
Oh, we've said it plenty of times. Now,
Yeah.
I think a great exercise for us, JD, is to go back and find every time we have used that criticism and see if current events will make us reevaluate those villainous performances.
Mhm.
Do we have they become recontextualized because of what we've seen with the writer's strike now?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
seriously.
genuinely curious if that is the case.
Yeah, because I think I will look at a lot of it different. Like again, it just comes down to utilization within the context of the film and what it's trying to accomplish. Them being
Right.
one note is no longer an issue for me. Like I will definitely go back and look at my notes and be like, okay, I'm striking that out next time.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
That's
but
funny.
yes, at any rate, that is to say, I'm glad that they were able to make this work despite it
Hmm.
being 5 months late. I don't know why, because they inevitably arrived where they needed to,
Yeah.
and they knew that this was going to it was going to come to this.
Yeah.
Just make it sooner, and hopefully this means that they've conceded and are trying to figure out the SAG stuff
I agree.
simultaneously.
Yeah.
I presume that's kind of where we're headed, but who knows? We'll
Optimistically,
see.
yeah, it only makes sense because there are aspects of their work from an artistic standpoint as well that there's synergy there. They
Mhm.
communicate, they talk to each other, and sometimes you can't have one without the other. So you
Yeah.
would think, you would hope that that there is synergy there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking because if the AMPTP is, if they're working out something with the writers,
Hmm.
I would assume that they're trying to negotiate with SAG as well,
Yeah.
that they just haven't come to any sort of tentative agreement yet.
Right.
But yeah, I assume there's some sort of synergy there.
Yep.
As far as what we see with the writers on the surface, anyway, again, this has just come out as we're talking about it here. It looks
Hmm.
very fair. It looks great. From all accounts, it seems as if the writers are pleased with this deal. They think it's quite fair and it works for them. And if they're happy, I'm happy.
Yep.
And this is one step closer to getting back to normalcy. So
Absolutely.
very much looking forward to that for sure. All right. I think with that, we'll go ahead and end this Patreon session here as we do have a lot to get to with the retrospective.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you
Yep.
guys enjoy it. Our review of the Royal Tenenbaums is already out right now. So
It
if you
is.
haven't seen that or heard that, go and check that out.
It's a long
Uh,
one, but a good one.
it was a ton of fun. I enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah.
And we hope you guys enjoy the retrospective. So we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Enjoy the show.